You joined us for Rain of Blood, and together we made it rain bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. So now, join us for a second blazing inferno of knowledge and exploration. You're listening to Rain of Fire, the scorching sequel event to Rain of Blood, where we're going to delve into the world of fire play education and safety as we prepare for the upcoming Rain of Fire event. Join your host, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and Ember Solaris as we ignite your curiosity and stoke the flames of passion with discussions, interviews, and authentic insights from around the globe. Together, we're three flames united in one mission to make quality kink education more accessible and open pathways to conversation and connection about edgeplay topics around the world. But before we dive into these sizzling topics, a content warning. Rain of Fire discusses mature themes, explicit content, and practices related to BDSM and fireplay. So listener discretion is advised, and this is an adult-only podcast. Other topics may include mental health, trauma, consent, and more. So please be sure you're in a good spot to engage in these topics before continuing to listen. So, grab your fire gear, stoke the flames of curiosity, and let's embark on this crackling journey together. Welcome to Rain of Fire.
Hey, amazing fire starters. I'm so excited to bring you another episode of Rain of Fire. And I have Primeval in the dungeon with me virtually tonight, which is quite a privilege, still a bit of a fangirl, all the way from Africa. So welcome, sir, to our podcast, and thank you so much for your support. And we're so excited to have you as a presenter for Rain of Fire.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for all of my listeners who don't know who Primeval is, please go and have a look at his FetLife page. His work with butane bubbles is absolutely phenomenal, and he's an experienced educator, and we are just absolutely thrilled to have him on board. He'll be teaching 3 classes for us at Rain of Fire, and just really excited to chat to you a little bit about your journey, and to pick your brains on butane bubbles tonight, I think.
I'm an open book. You go right ahead.
Well, first of all, before we get lit, let's start with your journey. The fire puns are just too easy. So let's start a bit with your journey in kink, and maybe you can tell us all how you started, how you stopped being a vanilla muggle and joined the dark side.
Probably around 2012. I was dating a young woman who we started to play around role playing and so forth, and she wanted to get more serious, and she wanted to find out more about what kind of community was out there and that type of thing. Unfortunately, I knew somebody who happened to be in kink, and she told me about FetLife and how to access our first munch. And when we went, we definitely opened up a whole new world. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't last too long, but I did find that the leader of that munch was very attractive and very attracted to me. So we started seeing each other for a while, and so she taught me quite a bit. And over time, you learn. You learn new things, and you learn what you like, what you don't like. I wanted to be a rigger at one point, but that didn't work out. I just couldn't concentrate on doing knots all day. And so I figured out that I was a sadist, a heavy sadist at that. So eventually I, besides doing like kidnapping type scenes and the normal impact scenes and so forth, I ended up starting with fire, and I'd always been a little bit of a firebug. So around 2017, started with flash cotton, and then about 2020, I started with butane bubbles and alcohol and all the other fun stuff, and really here I am today.
That's amazing. My rope journey has been continuous. I have spent a lot of money on rope lessons. I've probably invested more on rope than I've invested in any other kink. And I still need a YouTube tutorial to tell me how to do a single column tie. And it's just something that's never come naturally, and I've never been any good at. I know some amazing riggers. They are super worth paying for their skills. I love being in rope, but I'm just not good at rope, and it's just never going to be something I can do.
And I'm not knocking riggers. I mean, I have tremendous respect for them. It just wasn't for me, it turns out. And, we all have to learn what our path is and what our journey is. And as it turns out for me, it's more of a dark side. One of my signature scenes is actually the Dexter scene. So if you remember the television show Dexter on Showtime, where he wraps his victims up in plastic and eventually kills them, that is something I love to do. I love to wrap up my bottoms in plastic and torture them and do all sorts of nasties to them. And eventually, spoiler alert, I actually kill them. But no, I don't kill them for real. But yeah, it's a great time. It really is.
Well, I'm really relating to that because blood is probably one of my top two kinks. So that Dexter setup and the Dexter scene, and then my partner is quite small, so he lends himself well to being rolled up in many things. Plastic is one of them, and he's quite easy to suspend off stuff or shove into stuff or wrap up in stuff. So we have a standing joke to say that we're probably personally responsible for global warming with the amount of product wrap we go through in our household. But yeah, I can relate to all of that. That's definitely kinks that tick all the boxes for me. And yeah, we're not knocking rope, but and hats off to the guys who do it. And I've learned a lot from the rope community. And he got a huge amount of education from them, and I will continue to go to rope classes. But I don't see it ever being something people are going to remember me for. So yeah, but it's okay. We're all allowed to have our place in this world. You do other things in the community as well, though. You educate quite a bit, and I know that you are involved in quite a lot of cons and quite a lot of festivals.
Well, I wouldn't say a huge amount, but I am getting more and more out there. For the most part, I've been in the South Florida community for most of my kink journey, and I have been a volunteer as well as director for a national conference called Beyond Leather that they hold in May in West Palm Beach every year. I'm the director of pretty much anything technical. So you're talking about sound, stage, lighting, that kind of thing. And it's a lot of work, but very rewarding, very fulfilling. So I've started branching out and going to other conferences and going to expos and going to other dungeons and trying to figure out, more of what else is out there and what the differences are. And it's been really, really fun. So I've been doing a lot of demos and I've been doing classes. I've always been doing classes here in our local community, but our local community is very small. It's about 40 minutes north of West Palm Beach. And while that's rewarding, I do want a bigger audience. And so that's why when Rain of Fire came along, I had heard about Rain of Blood and I thought, oh, this sounds cool. And several people approached me and said, you've got to join this. You've got to do this. So that's when I approached you guys and filled out the forms, and here we are.
Yeah, we were very excited, and I think we all reached out to you as well. So we were also super excited to see your form come in, and even more excited to see your classes come in, and to see that schedule fill up, because it's so exciting to see fire taking shape, and and just seeing a whole bunch of educators that I didn't know previously and getting to connect with them and getting to hear about their journey. And I think you expressed that a little bit in seeing other communities and experiencing other Kinksters and other people's journeys. I think the same for us with Rain of Blood and Rain of Fire. We've really enjoyed getting to know the community a bit and seeing what everybody else is up to, and also connecting and not feeling so weird, because it's hard to tell my friends that I spent 4 hours this afternoon setting my other friends on fire, and it was really rad. Like, that is something that's like a sentence that I'm really glad I can share with you, because you can relate to that. But I'm not sure that my mum would feel as pleased as you are for my journey, or my other vanilla friends. So it's really nice to just find connection and to be able to discuss stuff, and then to be able to discuss the stuff that went well and the stuff that didn't go so well, so that we get better at it, and our kink improves. And I think our community is super tiny. I imagine Florida to be about 5 times the size of what we have here, and far more established. But we're getting there, and stuff like this really helps the smaller communities connect.
You were saying something about your mother. My mother does know. She doesn't want details, but anytime I bring up fire, she rolls her eyes. But I'm like, listen, the type of fire that I do is actually very well controlled. It's a controlled environment. We don't harm anybody, or I should say damage anybody. And I've showed her a couple of examples, but she still rolls her eyes at the whole thing. And it is funny when somebody, comes up and tries to get in my face about anything. I was like, look, man, I light people on fire for sport. You don't intimidate me in the least. So it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I have the same viewpoint, but mine is I'll put 200 needles in a friend for a good time on a Saturday afternoon. This is not really worrying me. This is really not worrying me.
Buzz off, pal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I seem to be one of the only girls on FetLife that doesn't get shitty messages, but I think it's because I have 200 CBT pictures that are more needles than they are cock. So I think my work sort of controls my inbox a lot more. So anybody who's listening and is got shitty FetLife inboxes, you're welcome to borrow some of my CBT pics. They really help.
I was just gonna say, yeah,
thin the crowd. They really do. only the brave stay, and it definitely cuts the crowd in half. But yeah. So talking about butane bubbles, because it's on my mind. We have been playing with it the whole afternoon. I'm looking for top tips and tricks. How do we make our experiences better, and what is really important to you when setting up for a scene? And give me your pointers, please.
Well, I have a fire bag that has everything I want in there, and it's actually it's like a shoe bag. I guess I'll have to wait until the class to show everybody what that looks like and where they can get their own. But it's got multiple compartments and so forth, so I can fit the accelerants in there, bowls in there, other things like candles and flash cotton. So when I do set up for a scene, I have a table that I call my fire table, and it's got kind of a covering on it. I got it out of the trash, believe it or not. I got it from a dumpster, doing some dumpster diving, and it's got like a neoprene rubber top to it. And so things don't slip around easily. And even if you light the table on fire, it goes out really quickly. It does not light on fire. So that's a big plus. And I keep that, of course, further away from the bottoms, because you never keep your accelerants near the bottom. Pro tip. And so I'll have a fire bowl there. But the biggest thing people always ask me is, what is my recipe? What is the formula? I'm like, there's no real recipe, man. Just fill a bowl up, maybe halfway with water, maybe a little less. Use a generous amount of Dawn soap, like a half of one of those small bottles. And then, mix it all up and put a little butane in until it starts to overflow. And there's your bubbles. But the biggest thing is, make sure your bottom is wet. I use a spray bottle. I used to use wet rags, but the water would get all soapy and stuff. So now I just use a spray bottle and I spray them down, which is awesome, because if you use cold water, then you're getting into some real temperature play. And they're like, oh, no. Well, that's part of my fun. I do it for my amusement, making you uncomfortable. And of course, I have a wicked sense of humor. So, of course, I'm going to say, well, I told you weren't going to leave my table without getting wet or without being wet. And, but that's important. You want to make sure that there's a layer of water on your bottom beforehand, because the water helps build a shield between the skin and the flame. I'm not going to say that fire, especially fire bubbles, is safe, but because it's a gas and it's not a liquid accelerant like alcohol or white gas, it tends to just burn right out. It does burn right out without drips that can reignite, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, definitely. Like the worst thing that has happened with us with the gas is that the gas is sunk down. The bubbles have burst and the gas is sunk down. But even if it has ignited, it's a big whoosh, and then everything is out. There's no prolonged burn or.
We had a demo. Well, I was doing a class on it up in Jacksonville, and we had a male bottom who I was just kidding around with him, and he called my bluff. He said, "Yeah, I'll come." And he took off all of his clothes, and like, damned if the guy wasn't completely shaved down. I was like, "All right, man, this is it. Let's do this." And I actually let the girls put bubbles on him, and I kind of stood back, and I thought to myself, "Damn, that seems like a lot of bubbles, but let's light him up anyway." And we did. And the table he was on, apparently some of the bubbles had gotten underneath his testicles, and he started flailing around, and everybody thought it was funny as shit. And it was a little concerning, but it turns out he was just fine. He was laughing about it afterwards. And of course, I check on my bottoms for the next couple of days, and he was fine because the bubbles, they just flame out very quickly. So, yeah, sometimes they can get into places you didn't want them to get, but they're going to burn out very quickly. I mean, they burn within 2 to 3 seconds tops. And it's not enough to do any real damage to anyone. And that's why I kind of prefer the bubbles over other mediums. We had an incident recently in the South Florida area that created a stir where someone was swinging fire floggers. He should not have been swinging fire floggers. He was using white gas. He was using 91% alcohol, and the floggers were touching the bottom. I don't even swing fire floggers for this reason. And the alcohol was starting to get flung around, so it was actually getting onto the bottom and then setting her on fire. And he had no spotters. So that's the kind of thing I want to avoid. If I was going to get into that medium, I would definitely follow the safety protocols as well as common sense, and make sure to have spotters, make sure to only do it for a couple of moments at a time, a few swings, then have her checked, have my bottom checked, that kind of thing. So, fire bubbles are fire. They're dangerous. But at the same time, they're probably a little safer than other mediums, is what I'm saying.
I think that the fire bubbles are hugely dramatic. There's a lot of adrenaline in lighting them.
Yes.
It's really dramatic, but you can apply them to the same spot again. There's very little heat that come off the fire bubbles onto your own body. It's not like a fire wand or a fire whip or a fire flogger. So you don't have to be as careful about where you are applying them, because you're not actually subjecting the skin to an enormous amount of heat.
And as I tell people, it's basically a light sunburn that you're going to get. We're not going to apply it too much to the same spot. I'm not going to put it like 5, 6, 7 times on the same spot and really hurt you, but I can still do it 2 or 3 times and it'll be fine. Just like you said. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, 100%. I love the information that you're giving. I'm just, it's just interesting from a bottom perspective. The fire bubbles they feel a bit overwhelming, and when you first see them and when you first experience them on your hand, your instant reaction is to want to shake them off and to get rid of them or to put them out.
Yes.
And then you realize that it didn't hurt at all, and it was super cool, and you want to do it again. And then you want to do it again. And then you just want to do it again just in case.
It was just the perfect look last night. So I had a bottom that I usually work with, and there was a new partner. She came into the fold, and she was watching me do fire bubbles on the one partner. And when I put fire bubbles on her ass and lit them up, the look on her face, because I try to record all of my fire scenes just in case something happens or I want to make sure, I can do it better next time. And the look on her face as her mouth dropped was priceless. She was just aghast, like, oh my God. And then, of course, we got her down, and she, we lit her on fire too. So it was a good time.
Talking about the looks on faces, and I want to just revisit what you were saying about having a second and having a spotter. So I really don't have that much education or experience with fire or fire bubbles. So for me, I definitely have a spotter anytime I light anything, because my knowledge of fire is limited and I need to have help. And we have quite a good creative team that we play with, so it's more fun. It's more fun to do with friends anyway. But we have a really beautiful central player who doesn't do any pain, who we call our safety officer. And she's amazing because she's really responsible about things like hair and and getting the best shot for a photograph. So between making sure that your hair doesn't burn and that the camera is always placed in the room in the right place for a photograph, she is just incredible. But she also has the way of, like, whatever kink we're doing, because she's normally not involved from a bottom or a top side, whatever kink we're doing, her face by the end of the kink is more exciting than the kink, or watching the kink, or participating in the kink. So we also always video it, and she's always in the corner of our videos. And so the safety officer's face in our videos is just priceless. I think I've had more joy from that than some of the kinks that we've participated in and some of the weird shit we've done. So I completely get that. And fire's lovely like that. Fire has a way of making the whole room responsible for what's happening in front of them. Like, for some reason, it just captivates everybody, and everybody is then involved. And there's like an air of, like, you could also be needed to put it out. So you're all on guard. So everybody is just slightly more, the adrenaline's flooding through all of their bodies, and they're slightly more aware of their surroundings, of the people in front of them, of what's happening. And we make it almost makes the whole room slightly nervous. It's quite cool. Like, it's without having to announce it or say anything, it does that on its own. So it really has quite a cool power in a group of people. I quite like that about fire.
Inevitably somebody goes, Jesus Christ, and I have to look at them and go, Primeval. So it's fun. I have a good sense of humor about these things.
I like that. I said to the top that was working with us today, I was like, oh my God. He's like, no, you can call me Strider. I was like, fuck you. Yeah, but and just going back to what you were saying, I'm not suggesting to the audience that they do fire bubbles 27 times in the same spot, but what I will say is that,
I know you weren't.
Yeah. What I will say is that if you're doing something even like the fire fleshing or the wand work, I'm not quite sure which term is correct to use, but even with the wand work, going over and over the same spot more than twice, you'll definitely start to feel it as a bottom. You'll start to feel your skin being quite sensitive there, and afterwards there's a small bit of red line left. Whereas with fire bubbles, it's definitely not the same story. So it is super dramatic, listeners. It is super fun to witness. It is even more fun to bottom for. Like, I'm 100% hooked. It's super fun to top for, but it's not for me. It's not as the risk of burn is almost 50% less, I think, than when I've bottomed for a wand, or I've bottomed for something else like a fire whip or something like that. So definitely my drug of choice at the moment. I found a really cool shop, and they had butane at a really good price. So I was the chick that walked out with like 6 bags of butane, and the shop owner looking at me really strangely. The guy in front of me had just bought 4 pool noodles, and it's the middle of Cape Town winter. So I was like, oh, are you swimming in winter? He was like, no, they're for another project. They're not for swimming. And I was like, ask me what my butane's for. Go for it. Oh dear. Yeah. What other things do you do with fire? You spoke a bit about flash cotton.
Flash cotton, of course. Like if I do a Dexter scene, somebody's wrapped in plastic, and I'm not. I've experimented with the fire bubbles to the point where I know I'm not going to burn someone's clothes or anything like that. But I haven't tried it on plastic wrap, so I'm not really willing to do that yet. But I like to incorporate fire into my Dexter scenes, so I'll use flash cotton, for example. And I'll cover some of this during one of my last class, which is incorporating fire into other types of play. But so I won't ruin the surprise just yet.
No, don't do
but
that.
yeah, I speaking of the butane bubbles, you can use butane or propane, and I'm sure there's other types of gases, but those are the two main gases that you can use. Chemistry teachers will often use fire bubbles to give a big flash during a class and explain certain principles in chemistry or physics. And so they'll also use propane. And so there's Skyfire actually told me about a fire bubbler. So it will take propane as well as your water soap mix. And I've seen someone do this. I was up in Jacksonville, and there's a girl that does this for a living. She goes to parties and does fire bubbles, and she uses the propane canister, and it's the small one for camping, like the Coleman, and you can actually use it as a bubbler. I have one coming. I was hoping it would come this past Friday, but it didn't. So I'm going to have to play with it this week. I was hoping to play with it all weekend. But that should be a good time as well. And I think that from what I can tell, the bubbles are easier to manipulate. So, but as far as I've gotten into fire spanking with the bubbles. I've actually used a knife with some Kevlar webbing and done fire knifing. I know it's not a new thing, but apparently it's not really a big thing, and I'm kind of hoping to make it a big thing. So I'm going to make another bigger knife for the classes in July, and we're going to have a good time. I think we're going to come up with some really good examples of fire play and some demos. And I think we're going to have a good time. And I'm excited to see all the other classes as well.
I'm having a great time taking my impact toys and putting some Kevlar, some cotton onto them, and then putting a little bit of fuel on them and repurposing the spanking items for a different version of spanking. That's a whole world that definitely needs to be explored. And what I did learn today is that you can't keep spanking the same spot. You have to be much more accurate about moving your spot. So it was a different look at how I approached impact. And definitely, spreading the love equally, and focusing on both cheeks, more alternatively than I would, and quicker than I would normally when I was spanking. So
symmetry.
And I got to spank a very beautiful girl's bum. So it was very, and then I really enjoyed afterwards. There was not a burn on it, but just in case there was a burn, I did put some aftercare lotion on it, and I did give it a good rub down. And I'm not normally good at aftercare. I was very good at the aftercare on that beautiful bum today. So I was very grateful for the privilege and really enjoyed the little bit of fire spanking, and just playing with a different approach to something that is such an old school kink for me, and it really made it very lively, and lots of giggles from the dungeon today, so it was super fun. So looking forward to getting some top tips from you.
That's a good reminder for all the listeners, man. Have your medical kits, have burn gel, have bandages, have things available always. Because as I said, with that incident recently in South Florida, the guy didn't even have a medical kit. He didn't go and look for medical care. It was just a shit show. I wasn't there. I know people that were, and they said it was just terrible what happened there. So I think absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get into frenzy though. Like it's so exciting. It's one of those kinks that I want to share with the whole world. I literally am sharing it with the whole world
Right?
in my absolute frenzy about this kink. But it's something I want like everyone in my community to be able to have an experience with. Because it's our community's never seen butane bubbles. They've never seen fire fleshing or fire wands. They've never seen a fire towel. They've never seen the stuff in real life. Like they might have skimmed over it on FetLife, and then the problem with a lot of the fire photography on FetLife is it actually looks like it's been edited on some kind of fancy editor, and the photos don't look real. And until you've actually stood in front of it and you've seen butane bubbles go whoosh, you won't believe that that picture is real. It looks like somebody's used some fancy editing program. So you don't really pay attention to it. But it's something that I think that a lot of people would really enjoy, and it definitely gives a lot of spin on a whole bunch of different kinks as well. Like it's not just poi, and it's not just cracking a whip. Like there's a million other things.
Sure.
And it comes with its own sensory elements too, like just the noise of fire. There's something phenomenal about that noise. There's something so captivating on that first light up. Or the sound of the whip going past your head when it's alight. I've never seen a fire flogger in real life, but I can imagine the fire floggers also make a really incredible noise and are pretty impressive to hear. Yeah, so I think it is a whole new sensory thing. And then the sound of burning hair, like that's a new sensory experience. That's something that becomes,
or even the smell of burning hair.
Yeah, but you get like what I've learned in my journey is that the sound precedes the smell. And it's like that slight crackling noise. If you're attentive and if you pay attention to that, you don't have to get to the overwhelming smell. You can get the slight smell, but you don't have to get to the overwhelming smell, because the thing with burning hair is you smell it twice. Once when it happens, and once again in the shower. Sorry, I interrupted.
I had a roommate in college that I wasn't very fond of for the summer, and everybody has their beliefs and whatnot, and it's okay. But I'm not really much of a Bible guy, and he had his Bible group over all the time, and one day I just couldn't take it. So, and this is just a dorm room, it's just one big room. So I just sat on my couch and I started lighting my leg hair on fire. That cleared the room. They were like, "Oh, dude, why?" And they walked the hell out and they never came back. And I was like, "All right, job done. We're good." So
and follow
it just unlocked that memory.
And follow Primeval for more top tips on how to get rid of guests who won't leave. In next week's edition, we'll be teaching you how to get rid of your mother.
More tips.
Yeah, we'll be teaching you on how to get rid of people that stay in your kitchen for too long. Oh dear, that's crazy. I'm sure that relationship didn't have a great end.
Oh, it's fine. It was just a summer thing, and he went on his way and I went on my way, and it is what it is. So not that we're ever going to go looking for each other, in our adult lives now. So
well, he won't recognize you because your hair's grown back. So, his memories will be different. Oh dear. I'm really excited to have you on Rain of Fire, and it was really great to spend some time chatting to you and to let our listeners
you as well
hear what's coming up. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Privilege. Thanks, sir. And to my listeners, if you don't have your tickets, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need to get your tickets sorted. If you have your tickets, you need to get your Discord membership sorted. So please join our Discord or join our FetLife group and do your verifications so that we can have you ready for the 1st of July when we go live with our on-demand content. We'll be providing a full month of available YouTube content, which is all the 101s that you need to be going through before the con, so that you've done all the safety work, you've had a look at all the consent work, the negotiation work. We've got some really good presenters that have given us some excellent 101 content. We're really excited to share that with you. And then our con at the end of July. If you need sponsorship or you need a scholarship for Rain of Fire, we're really happy to help you. We believe education should be available to all. So please reach out to us with a DM. We're really happy to support you. I have a really amazing team helping me. I have some great moderators and 2 really incredible partners in this. So the 3 of us are super excited to start to work on the on-demand this month. We're getting closer and we are, starting to burn things. And from my dungeon all the way in Cape Town to wherever you are, lots of love and kitten kisses.